হ্যালো, ঠিক আছে না?
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I draw your kind attention, please. We are going to start with today's administrative brief. Next slide, please. Sir, শুরু করছি স্যার। স্যার, slide আমার slide. Today we'll have total 4 sessions, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Then we'll have culture program and the conference dinner. Next slide, please. Now, session 6 and 7 will be here at like other 2 days here at multipurpose training hall in this complex. Then after lunch, we'll have also 2 sessions, session 8 and 9. So after lunch, these 2 sessions will be organized in the academic building. Academic building is that building where we organize the ideas bazaar. So you will be guided to the academic building. So one important point, after lunch, you are not coming to this complex. Then we have few discussions with Kenyan delegation, and also we have the esteemed guests from Nigeria. They have asked for the discussion with the commandant, so it is scheduled like that. And IPSTC, the next host, they will also have discussion with the ExCom members during lunch. So these are the few points that we have for today. Another 2 reminders. One is the filling up the formats for the cultural tour, departure schedule. And tomorrow, after the conference, you will be given with the certificate. So we are trying to arrange those certificates as per the country, so that it will be placed beside the information booth. And you will get it after tomorrow, after the closing ceremony tomorrow. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. May I ask Ms. Seba Isa from IAPTC Secretariat to deliver her part.
Thank you, Colonel. This is Seba Isa again from the Secretariat of the IAPTC. As we approach the end of our 26th annual conference, I would like to remind you of a few things. Tomorrow, after the closing of the conference, we will have our annual general meeting. So I would like to remind our members, who are all invited to attend the annual general meeting, that during this meeting we are going to discuss and agree on some formal issues, but also we are going to discuss the key takeaways and experiences from the ongoing conference. So we're going to discuss bits to remind you of the IAPTC Plus that David, our honorary member, briefed you about yesterday. Please share your ideas with the Secretariat, Jonas Alberot, or David before noon. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Good morning to you all. Now about the summary of yesterday. We had basically total 3 sessions yesterday, session 3, 4 and 5, and also formation. This presentation, it will be uploaded in the website PDF form, so we can also download that one. Now our session 3 was digital transformation and prospective training community, where we had Mr. Mark Perry, then 3 training center, Ipsot covering the military, then General Barbano he covered the police aspect, and Mr. Isaac Oni, he covered the civilian perspective. Now, in his presentation, highlight the main goals of the 2021 peacekeeping strategy on digital transformation in the training context. Then, while explaining the current status, he pointed out that the peacekeeping training centers have varying levels of technology, from computer to the software. Then, in order to have a better understanding, so what's have also done with the UN-owned equipment and the UN country-owned equipment. Now in the topic 2, we had the military perspective. It was covered by Brigadier General Khalil from BIPSOT, and he stressed on the use of modern surveillance, aquatic sensing devices, and the night vision equipment recognizes vehicles, then satellite recognizes, aerial observation, and particularly drones, and surface radar, etc. You find that most of the infantry battalions who are deployed in the mission area are from the third world developing countries of Africa and Indian subcontinent. Still, they rely on the age-old technologies and lack significantly in the field of digitalization. He enumerated some of the key challenges of digital transformation, challenges of military, like participant shyness to use digitally advanced, lack of asset to embrace the soldiers, not availability of required infrastructure, etc., to name a few. They mentioned about digital transformation offered two opportunities. He suggested few pragmatic means to enhance digital transformation in training. Like first, using online platform for distributing resources can ease up learning, overcome the logistic challenges, acquisition of forensic cyber security capabilities, etc. These are some key recommendations among others. Then we had the last speaker, Mr. Oni. He is from USIP. He covered the civilian aspect. And while speaking, he mentioned about the civilian perspective of the digital transformation. He emphasized on training development through improvement of instructor cadre with required technologies, with required know-how and soft skill. Especially he mentioned about negotiation, military cooperation, and learning visits to institutions with better technology capacity. In the session 4, it was partnership and cooperation in training digital area. It was very interesting one. Then we had Walton from Canada. He was in the VTC. He presented on peacekeeping solution, a new medium of scenario training. Then we had from the port enhancing accessibility to effective e-learning, and also finally we have the Ms. Jennifer Pulliam. She covered about the initiative for the peacekeeping community. Dr. Walton basically started the use of simulator, which is basically the training of the military observer. Then exercise scenario set in Maryland, accessible. He mentioned that PTIs can blend put learning into the classroom. Then they offer courses in 5 languages. Then also they offer mobile apps to their users. And as technology advanced, partnership within the community will as in offering effective e-learning growing audience. The last speaker of the session was from JIPOI, Ms. Jennifer Pulliam. She just mentioned how the JIPOI is working to leverage digitalization in peacekeeping training and further integrate the new technologies into the capacity building assistant. Then digital technology provides a valuable opportunity to reach further and wider audience and transform and deepen their learning experience. Then increasingly they are employing simulation technologies such as medical or firearm simulation to enable more realistic training experience for the peacekeepers. Then working with the partners countries to help ensure the technology that peacekeeping units are deployed into the mission environment. For example, tactical unarmed aerial system is available and effectively integrated into their training environment, which is much required. Then also, she mentioned about the importance of ensuring that any technology employed in the mission environment is replicated when acquiring or delivering digital or technology solution. And finally, the importance of data collection and assessment to enable data-informed decisions and help ensure the most productive returns on their collective investment or of resources. Then finally, we had the session 5, and the topic was technology and innovation in UN Peace Operation Training. We had 3 speakers. Dr. Ayono, she covered the digital innovation operation in Africa, opportunities and limits. Then we had a speaker was from Brazil. He covered the exercise Viking lesson learned. And finally, Robert Lore of LCM of ITS, he how oriented with the light coordinate that digital. Now about the topic, first of all, the digital innovation, which is covered by, she said that opportunities in digital innovation for peace support like will be a force multiplier, awareness enhancement, and countering abuse by the about the limitation challenges in absence of basic digital of requirements of content feature multi-dimensional crisis, which include peace support operation and peace support operation. The lesson learned mentioned about the members of the unit and their simulation of Brazil and Sweden. Then the police component, military police component, it was integrated and worked very well. The civilian component, understand that civilians have a key role, define clear civilian team, criteria selection team, and integrated training. In the training, the importance of effective peace, enhancement of the use of technology in peacekeeping, the improvement of the performance assessment tools, the field exercise with the help of technology. In the last topic, we had Dr. Herbert Lore from LCM. In fact, he said that that was identified by the members. Lesson learned. He took the initiative about the with the help of all the members. I think 12 or 14. They have these apps, and it is utilized as knowledge sharing tools, policy, and guidance document library. And there is a flexibility in the methodology was being also emphasized during the development of the app.
English audience, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am Colonel Salehin. I am the Senior Instructor of BIFSOT. So, trying hard to get your feedback, which is important. So please go to the 26 IAPTC website and give your feedback. You'll find the otherwise it will be just very short. So Colonel Mustafizur Rahman is presently serving as the head of the trainers, TOT, of the Center of the Integrated Training Service, ITS of DPO at NTB. And he had been, he participated in United Nations Protection Force in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and he commanded Bangladeshi Battalion 1 in Ituri province of DR Congo. He was also served as the senior instructor at BIFSOT. He is an active member of IAPTC and participated in the annual conference of 2010, and since 2018 he is serving as the military chair. So probably you all will agree that given his involvement with peacekeeping missions and peacekeeping training in area, with the best person is important. Further, may I now request Colonel Mustafizur to begin this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colonel Sahin. Good morning to you all again. But I got this session and also next session, but this one is a very challenging one, as you can see. There are 5 speakers, 2 are in person and 3 are on VTC. Again, it is a test for the theme of the conference. It's a digital era. I don't know how we can manage, but set with the guidance of Jen Foster, and I think we can. As you know that in the Special Committee on Peacekeeping Operation, that is known as C34, recognized the importance of enhancing information gathering and analysis, and it report in 2017 the Special Peacekeeping Training Communities with the UN policies, guidelines on the peacekeeping intelligence and situational awareness, and identify the training needs. Ladies and gentlemen, of this will be conducted in plenary here because we have 5 speakers. Time for the break. So there are total 5 panelists, as mentioned by Colonel Hin. 2 are here, 3 will participate through New York. Our first speaker is Mr. Adrian Foster. And he's going to talk on the situational awareness and peacekeeping intelligence issues faced by the uniform component. And then Mr. Kevin Kennedy, he will join with us, and he will cover situational awareness and peacekeeping intelligence issues faced by the civilian communities. Then the third speaker, Mr. Guy Bennett, he is going to talk on the Unite Aware and all the related issues with that. And the fourth speaker is Mr. Guillaume Darme, Chief of Peacekeeping Intelligence, and he is going to talk on the peacekeeping intelligence. And finally, our fifth speaker is Jean-Michel Kerougat, the Program Manager of UNCAP, and my neighbor in NTB, and he is going to talk about the UNCAP and the technology in peacekeeping capacity building. And at the end, we'll have a question and session. But it will be in different mode. There are 5 questions set by the General Adrian Foster, and basically his specializations are peace support operations and human resources. He has had a number of multinational operational assignments, including 4 years as the acting force commander or deputy force commander in the mission in Democratic Republic of Congo, then deputy commanding general of the multinational security transition command in Iraq, and chief of staff in UN mission in Sierra Leone. He also commanded his regiment, that is 26th Regiment Royal Artillery, on operation as a part of the stabilization force in Bosnia-Herzegovina, or known as S4. General Adrian Foster completed his military service with 4 years in the UN headquarters, New York, as a deputy military advisor in the Department of Peace Operation. Our next speaker, in fact, he is the former chief of Mr. Kevin Kennedy, and I could contact him after I met him here at BIFSOT in 2013. Almost after 9 years, he is now with us. So he is going to cover the civilian component. And just to introduce him, Mr. Kennedy joined the UN Secretariat in 1977 and worked in the Department of Peacekeeping Operation and the Department of Humanitarian Affairs and Public Information. He served in the field in the Democratic Republic of Congo, then MONUC, then South Africa, then in Kosovo as a member of the startup team for the initial deployment of UNMIC. Since his retirement from the Secretariat in September 2014, he has continued to work with the Secretariat on special assignment, mostly with respect to the peacekeeping and
Good morning, everyone. Okay. So we'll crack on. Now it's first thing in the morning, so if you're anything like me, it's your day as opposed to any. I'm going to tell a story over the next 45 minutes about situational awareness and peacekeeping intelligence in the digital age. I put a high risk. The subject is not necessarily high risk. The protection, the French culture, any culture, Michel will talk, and because he's French and they've got plenty of it. But hopefully we'll go through this. It's seen 3 parts. The talk. First of all, we're going to talk about the recent past. Myself and Ken in New York. Then we'll take you into the next part. Do today and looking ahead into the future. And Guy Bennett and Guillaume Dar will pick and take you through future possibilities. And here, that a huge amount of work going on in Jean-Michel's area, and he will talk about the possibilities there. The 3 stages. Then we've said will be a Q&A session instead of you breaking into groups. The very key messages we want to deliver today is that it's not right to be splitting this up, segregating this out into what it really is. And so let me quickly just give you a couple of definitions there. This is about situational awareness. Let you read that for a minute and just take a note of the key words in bold there from 2 definitions. So one question, the top one is from academia, academic on situational awareness. He points about 3 elements to it: situational awareness, perception, comprehension, for the future. That we can, to a certain extent, and tweaked a little bit. And in the deep policy in 2019, came up with that for the Joint Centre policy, and not I argue about whether it's knowledge or whether it's data to start off with, but it's the raw stuff. It's kind of turning it into something that you recognize and can so very much looking at the so what end, the action end of things. Now, of course, there are various views on the definitions. Guillaume will go into this in more detail. It is a sensitive area, and he will no doubt point that out later on. I like, and this is my diagram, so it's not official, but it's just the way that I got my head around how the two, situational awareness and peacekeeping intelligence, fit together. And you'll see that around the circle in entirety, if you consider that to be the operating environment for a mission, and around the dark blue circle around the edges, the wrapping, that is situational awareness. Then the inside element is peacekeeping intelligence. The way I like it is working backwards. So you start with the outer circle, and then with increasing specificity, you work and to arrive at the peacekeeping intelligence element. And you'll see, if you can read it, but around the circle on both, there is the classic. So back to the story. And let me now share with you a few personal frustrations with situational awareness and peacekeeping intelligence from my time in MONUSCO Force, my 4 years in the Congo. And that was a while back now, because I subsequently went to New York after that. And here are a few. First of all, in those days, it's getting better, but no distinction between the days. But no distinction between the two. In fact, in those days, we were not allowed to talk about, mention intelligence. It was a dirty word. Now, fortunately, we're allowed to peacekeeping intelligence. But it was just a more mass information, but no distinction. Acquisition of the lots and lots of blind spots. Well, for instance, we were not allowed officially to go the route of acquiring human intelligence. We were very much reliant on what we could see. And that was almost the sum total, because we didn't have much in the way of technology either. Getting better, but still, you know, working in silos. The force would do its bit. The police would do their bit. They might be looking at the same thing. They might come up with completely different conclusions, but they would then send that information up their silo, up their chain. No cross-referencing at the lower level. The first time, in many ways, that information would meet is at the top table, when the police commissioner sometimes would say something completely different to what the force commander is saying. And there would be a squabble at the top table about what was happening at the tactical level. Not a clever way of doing business. Other things, reporting and the collation. Too much of the wrong stuff. It was a blizzard of information coming up. Anything and everything. High level, low level, it didn't matter. But no attempt to prioritize it, no attempt really to sift it. And this was the stuff that was being presented to the mission leadership. Late. Often, all the time, it was coming too late to get into, as I said. Often, it would be the top table who were forced to actually unravel this. Not an efficient way of leadership doing its business if it's being presented with inconsistent information. Should have been sorted out much earlier down the chain of command. And then when it came to analysis, well, I say on there almost none, and I'm being kind. There was none, in effect. People were just not looking at the information and saying, so what does that mean to us? Is there consistency there? What does it mean in terms of what's going to happen tomorrow? Who's going to be involved? What does that mean for us? What do we do about it? What should I be telling my commander? None of that was coming forward. And then dissemination. Well, the vast majority of the stuff was archived. It was for mission records rather than being presented to leadership for them to make informed decisions about what to do next. It was just a strange old process I joked at times they were writing the mission's history, but not being used as the eyes and ears and the sensors and the orienters of the mission for the future. SAGE, that you might recognize the term SAGE as a tool for situational awareness. Another area of development is the subsequent launch of peacekeeping intelligence policy. Guillaume will say more about that and the training aspects today. People were beginning and allowed to even mention the word intelligence, and a policy was written around it. The rollout of SAGE, a number of started to pay. Then in 2018, there was sitting in MINUSCA of a thing UniteAware. And UniteAware is IT application built around or based initially on SAGE. That's when I came back into the equation because we were asked to review the progress on UniteAware, situational awareness IT platform, which we did, finishing writing our report November last year for the DPO and DOS in the UN headquarters. Our review confirmed the potential important to bring them all into the discussion. And hence, that is why today as well, Guillaume will talk about peacekeeping intelligence. Very important to see it in the round that way. So that's where we are at the moment. But before moving on to part two, and Guy and Guillaume, let me just emphasize the point that this story is not just about the force, It's similar were components the civilian, and that's and honestly, it doesn't the various sections and injustice just to call them opponents because they are specialist sections in their own. And of course, the police as well. They had similar challenges, and now Kate is going to give a quick snapshot of what those frustrations are at this point. Kate, if you take.
These are all things we know, but it's worth, I think, restating them. First, data and information are frequently siloed in missions. They are not readily shared, either for technical or, for example, human rights. Do not want to share their data and information, mission situation.
Kevin, we're losing you a bit. Maybe speak a bit slower so that we can latch onto your words.
We'll try. Actually, let me cut the video. Maybe that will help. Yeah. The other issue is that tools, many of the IT tools that we're using are not really adapted to capturing and facilitating the analysis of the qualitative or the contextual information that should contribute to the understanding and anticipation parts of situational awareness. Missions collect a massive amount of information. We spoke to one SRSG in particular who said he had done an audit in his own office and had found that his office received 450 reports every month. Have a system. It is called integration. It is called pulling together the uniform components and the information they collect and the data that's available through the sensors and the people they deploy, together with the contextual information that comes from the civilian side, from civil affairs, from human rights, from political affairs. A patrol can go and can inspect what's going on in a certain area, but if it does not have the context, if it doesn't have the input necessary from civil affairs through the system, it doesn't have, if its reports are not complemented by reports coming from which are able to use or violations or from civil affairs about the status of relations area. And you would not about information and communication technology, particularly for enhancing and safety of peacekeepers. That is critical. It's the same as in air putting on your oxygen mask before helping a fellow passenger. You cannot protect yourself and your side. It would be helpful to have something that's peacekeeping intelligence requirements, to have SAR, situational awareness requirements. This would help to siphon the information, to sift the information that's coming through joint operations centers from the deep field up to mission leadership to determine what the important information was that was needed to be known. There's a huge amount of work to be done. Much has been done. But the fact is that we still have a huge training deficit. We have too little data literacy and too little computer savvy amongst our personnel. We have a generation gap where we have younger people who are being deployed, particularly in civilian components, who understand how the information technology can enhance situational awareness. And there have been good experiments at that in MINUSMA, in MONUSCO, and in UNMISS in terms of heat mapping and detecting areas where threats to civilians, for example, are highest. But the training component of this is huge. The rotation of personnel, the need for people who contribute to systems like SAGE, which is an incident reporting system, which is fundamental to something like United Aware, need to understand not just the technology, but they need to understand the taxonomy. They did not understand the local context and were not able to anticipate or respond to threats. So that you had a situation, you had more than one situation, where a TOB with maybe 35 personnel out covering an IDP camp were unaware of the history and the context that was leading to an attack on that IDP camp that results in more than 100 deaths and the redisplacement of 18,000 people. Why? Because there was no civilian presence along with that COB, and because the reporting that was coming, the NGOs, areas, were going to separate silos and were not inform the TOB of threats. This is where the technology needs to be put in a situation where training needs to empower people with the mind, the skills, and the understanding of the to be able to hold this information. We don't lack information. Is accept that information, prioritize it, find leadership with that information that gives us the context to understand how about managing implementation. That is political reconciliation, protection of civilians, whether it's like.
Thank you, General and Mr. Kevin Kennedy. Basically, the very important issues were covered by both of them. First is that there is a clear now understanding the difference between situational awareness and peacekeeping intelligence. This is very important. And also General Foster shared his personal experience in MONUSCO. I was also there in Bunia as a contingent commander in 2014-15. I also felt now the UN is more equipped with the intelligence. At that time, there was no intelligence policy and everything. For the force protection and the protection of the civilian, I had to go for a approach up to there is no policy. The contingents have their policy in hand. That now are far better. Our next speaker, our third speaker is Mr. Guy Bennett. He will be covering the Unite Aware issues from the New York through VTC. Let me have the Mr. Guy. He served years in various countries, in a tour, deputy military, and United Kingdom mission to the United Nations. He had experience and upon leaving the army, he went into business working in digital transformation. In 2013, he joined United Nations mission in South Sudan, subsequently serving as the chief of the JMAC, principal advisor to the SRHG, and the chief of the political affairs.
Thank you everyone for the introduction and the background on this. As has just been said, my name is Guy Bennett. I head the Enhancing Situational Awareness workstream, part of the strategy for the digital transformation unite aware to integrate applications, start getting that foundation upon which your infrastructure is built, to improve operations and planning and analysis for the key. You can see here, this is totally on employee space.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett, for giving us a clear picture about the UNITAWARE. Because when I joined the UN in Entebbe, in fact, the first thing I encountered is the UNITAWARE, and I had to take the support of John Michel and contribute with them. So our next speaker we have at this moment, Mr. William Derme. He is the chief, and he'll be a witness from New York. And let's introduce him. He's the Episcopal Religious Coordination Team in the Department of Peace Operations since 2017. For implementation of the Episcopal the creation.
I will share my screen immediately. I hope you can see that. All right. So I'm going to start by giving you a quick introduction on quick history of what is peacekeeping intelligence. Then I'm going to go into what we've been doing peacekeeping intelligence. Talking about the training in peacekeeping peacekeepers, so that was the title of the now we train several of us start with the was the mission in Mali. Very quickly where grew was not affecting all religion to do something about it. So we look into the type of paths in and those are that are needed as I mentioned earlier, has very specific rules that sometimes countries do not have. So we need to have our own concept of intelligence. And the reason why it's called peacekeeping intelligence is because what I'm going to present to you is only applicable in peacekeeping operations, not in the wider UN context. And the reason why I mention this is because we have different rules. And so we have framed in the policy peacekeeping intelligence in a way that might be different from what you may know as intelligence. Intelligence is basically framed on different principles. There are rather steps that are going to develop each principle, but I mention just a couple of them so you understand the difference. And the main, in my opinion, the main principle is that peacekeeping intelligence in the rest of the country allow conduct activities. And I am sure some people in-house working system, and that's fine. For us, because this is not intelligence in the peacekeeping context, we talk about peacekeeping intelligence because we have these different rules that you can see here. I have 10 minutes, I'm going to go very quickly through all these things. They're not the coordinated through the heart of peacekeeping intelligence. And so basically what happened with the policy in 2019, with the revised policy in 2019 is we started trying to professionalize the conduct of zero peacekeeping operations. Only relate to IBM's frustration. So the peacekeeping intelligence cycle, which is not different from the intelligence cycle, the cycle that IBM mentioned at the beginning. We started implementing, starting with the direction. Senior leadership needs to tell us what we need. If you don't tell us push forward in terms of knowledge. And what we also try to professionalize is the mindset challenge in the UN. We try to make sure that there was coordination between all the intelligence, peacekeeping intelligence stakeholders in the mission, whether it's the U2 in the military side, whether it's the private intelligence unit on the police side, the JMAC, the JOB, the SF, everybody has a piece to have so that to help them to support them go through mission, to support them go through the professionalization. So we have intelligence policy, and then we have four guidelines that are staying. We have how to conduct open source, which is most of you know as possible. So we could be we have that human long story on use UAVs. Especially when to IED, how we can learn looking at IED or ammunition that we are able, how we can learn what equipment predict what they have try to provide information. In addition to this, we are also trying to improve the recruitment. There are less than 50% of intelligence officers in the two, there should be 100%. So we've been trying to work with your country so that when we send not verbal or youth officers and the intelligence officers that you can help us identify the right people and we can help our mission by sending the right people. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to go to the training a little bit in the slide. What I'm trying to do is have a huge catalog of traits that eventually might be certified. And then in order to be was how intelligence being taught in JMAC, you need those certificates. Some people told me it's a little bit, it might be a good certifier, because I think it's important. Also, unique, and I mean, you have that over the years in time, but I'm not saying we need necessarily more women in intelligence roles, or it might be the case, but we just need to consider gender efficiently, whether it's male or female. Now, I think the most important part for me is training and for that audience, training. What have we been doing in terms of training for peacekeeping intelligence over the past 5 years? Well, we've looked at all these angles that you can see on screen, training courses, pre-deployment training, initial training, and training of trainers. E-learning is not necessarily being up in New York that made no sense, maybe no problem here. And so roughly, that's what came back to us. There were needs on database management, analysis, open source peacekeeping intelligence, human source, roughly the needs that we receive from the mission. We can't address all the needs at once, we have to prioritize. And so how do we do that? We have a peacekeeping intelligence training working group composed of various stakeholders where we discuss and identify prior competencies and then not existing training and what we need to do. There are already existing courses in peacekeeping intelligence. I'm sure you know that already. Already those courses have been in training centers. We have the And we have the course of 31 people in the one of the courses that we are working on over the next few years, I hope will be collected over the next few years. So we're working on right now human peacekeeping intelligence, how to put human in a peacekeeping context. We're working on geospatial peacekeeping intelligence. We are working on collaborative operations, some the Excels, some have different software, and they go to interoperate with each other, so we try to fix that. And there's other training that you can reach here. But you can see all these, there's a lot of training already existing, or a lot coming up. And so we thought that in order to make this efficient and organized, we would put together, try to create a peacekeeping intelligence academy. It's a new idea. It's not, it hasn't gotten ground yet. We hope to do that by next year. And so the Peacekeeping Intelligence Academy will basically be a hub for all training courses that are related to peacekeeping intelligence. All those that I've mentioned here in the site. And initially, we will focus on delivering courses for personnel that are already deployed in missions, because that's a quick way for us. It's easier to implement get a trainer or pre-deployment training that takes years. You have to go through a lot of processes, necessary processes. So first thing first, the personnel that are already deployed in mission, how do we train them in everything that I mentioned earlier? We are also going to work with the academy on e-learning, in-mission training, so mobile training. The people from the academy would be able to be deployed to a peacekeeping mission to do in-mission training on peacekeeping intelligence. And I'm thinking, and I'm listening to my colleagues like yes, Mark, I think not in the room, but maybe extending those trainings up next to the C4ISR Academy, next room at zero. Everybody is going to be co-located, so it's going to be, I hope, a plus for us. It's a bit expensive for now. It's 1.2 million per year. We are still securing the funding. And what I hope is that eventually the academy will be able to have partnership with training centers to deliver training on peacekeeping intelligence. I'm almost out of time, so I'm just going to go very quickly through this. And that's what the first peacekeeping intelligence will look like. We are hoping to deliver at least 12 for roughly 150 training. And it will be in e-learning as well over the first year. Training on PPI fundamentals, analytical techniques. There will be seminars on professional development. Training on open source peacekeeping intelligence, human peacekeeping intelligence, military peacekeeping intelligence, and early warning to be conducted here. And we hope to extend the courses in the subsequent years. There are more courses on geospatial intelligence, ISR, data management, acquisition management, holding and security of peacekeeping intelligence is very important, and maybe peacekeeping intelligence. I don't want to, I think I'm probably almost out of time already. I'm happy to answer any question if you have, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Darbe. In fact, I'm available at 17 years at sea. Lieutenant Commander John Mitchell also participated in the peacekeeping operation in Lebanon, the Balkans, the Africa, and the Arab-Persian Gulf. He served in the NATO staff in Portugal as the second officer to the French military mission. From 2004 to 7, the officer is also qualified communication information system, both national and international, information management and NATO expert. And he is graduate master on 3 issues: international law and development economy, critical analysis and technology intelligence, and defense and security from French University. So John Mitchell, you're here, but only one thing is that your time starts and it will finish at 10:17. Oops.
Good morning, everybody. We have a very short time because if you want to have a quick Q&A, I have to be very short. So my presentation will be, full presentation will be online. I will reduce it at the maximum. I just want to start by a personal feeling. During the American Cup, American skipper Dennis Conner lose the final, very short. It was a very, very hard race. And when the journalist asked him and tried to find an excuse, he just answered, no excuse to lose. And today, 29 peacekeepers have been killed in action over the past 10 years. Today, we are around 500. The causes are well known. The first is the evolution of a UN mission from unarmed observers, respected and accepted by the party to the conflict, and tasked with monitoring a buffer zone. Two military and police forces not agreed upon by all parties in support of local government facing the threat of armed group, asymmetric threat, operating without a buffer zone. The blue helmet becomes to be targets. The second is due to inadequate training that is not adapted to the reality of threat that peacekeepers face in today's peacekeeping missions. Enhancing the security of peacekeepers and camp has become a priority. The triangular partnership brings together troops contributing countries, supporting member states, and the United Nations in an A4P, Action for Peace program, of which the United Nations C4ISR Academy for Peace Operation is the vehicle. Its motto is strengthening peacekeeping through technology training. The United Nations C4ISR Academy, for Peace Operation and CAP is committed to excellence in preparing peacekeepers for their role and improving their operational readiness and performance in key technologies and method used for command control communication technologies and method, as well as information, peacekeeping intelligence, surveillance, and I2SR, increasing cooperation and partnership with all entities concerned with the security of our peacekeepers and camps. This is the evolution that I am going to present to you in its main lines. Just a word from the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, which I really appreciate. With the structural aspect of the reform now well consolidated, it is imperative to keep the foot in the pedal to achieve the cultural change we need to greater collaboration across pillars and tangible results for people on the ground. I really love when he says to keep the foot. At the UN level, it's a real challenge, but we do it. Just to resume, triangular partnership, F4P, not spending too much time on that. UNCAP is in charge of support action for peacekeeping, F4P. Training police and uniformed personnel, police and military. This point, we don't mention civilians at this time, at this level, just because it's a problem of budget. We are funded by countries. We mentioned that the funds has to be used for training of military and police. But we are also training civilians now because we are collaborating with ITS more and more. And we support gender objective to increase the women participation in peacekeeping mission. Now you will probably start to have an headache. This is how UN is organized. 3 level team. In UN, we have so many initiatives, like the last one for, by example, for the peacekeeping intelligence peacekeeping academy. Every week, we have a meeting with New York, and we see a lot of new initiatives. The problem is how to coordinate all of these initiatives and how to organize the training when we get a result, a technical result. The challenge was to create this concept of C4ISR, and now to C5. It's not coming from nowhere. It's just the best reference is the DoD, the Department of Defense, US Department of Defense, who is working on that since a very long time, and NATO also. So we perfectly know what are the implications of the development of C4 ISR or C5 ISR in the development of course of action on the field. So the UN C4 ISR Academy was created. We regroup command, control, information and PKI. Why information and PKI it's a fight every day with Guillaume. It's just because talking about PKI at the UN level is very touchy, very sensitive. So information is really the base on what we have to be focused if we want to develop more peacekeeping intelligence. So I am not in charge of PKI, but I am in charge to train, because the I of ISR is intelligence at first. So we have no choice. We are in a real mission training course. We are on the way to develop a new capacity with a VILT, Virtual Instructor-Led Training, with the support of the DCB program from NATO. And the last step is research and technology research and training development. I try to develop this component in my team, but we have a lack of trainers until now. So we are just working more in cooperation with the UN development team. It's sometimes difficult, but we can exchange more and more now. Okay, cyber security. RFTS in Entebbe is in charge of training the cyber. Cyber is nothing more than intelligence. We can talk about for hours about that, but I come from cyber for the 5 last year. What we are able to talk about cyber, it's a cyber defense only at the UN level. And we are in charge of, we cooperate with US AFRICOM. In 1 week, we have the first cyber defense training session with West African countries hosted by UNCAP in Entebbe. Unite Aware. And through all of this collection of information, organization, we can share information to build a situational awareness and common operational. Of 2 months to organize a training session. So I have tried to reduce the delay in between 2 to 1.5 months. It was not possible. So the solution was very easy, in fact. Not talking about training courses, but training session. And we have created training session in English and French. A training session start in January, February. Okay, thank you. By a walk, women outreach course, based on C4 ISR training. But basically the work was really dedicated for IT training. Was absolutely not anymore adapted to the reality. And I joined immediately the micro UAS training course, remote pilot. It was the first step. We have created a corpus of fundamentals on UN, basics on Unite Aware, information management, PKI, reporting, situational awareness, and common operational picture. Basics, it's really what they have to know to understand where they are working on and for what. And then we have this integrated exercise. It was the first course in early 2022. The second one, the solution was to increase the number of courses in each session, training session. The work was moving from C4 to C5. Micro US, I add a TOT training inside the course, and we start by cyber, PKI, pilot course, ever with the same corpus of knowledge. We have additional courses in development, MCC's MPP, electronic spectrum management, NATO master training course, VILT, it's under the DCB program. And we have also, with the support of France, a micro-US master trainer course in France. We have to determine the date. So what you can see on the right side in purple is a result of a very, very quick process to increase the capacity of training new trainers. It was focused at first on the women outreach course, because if you are training women only on IT, you cannot increase the number of women in a JOC or command centers. It's impossible. So hopefully we have C4 ISR or C5 ISR now concept will allow us to develop more courses and more domain of expertise. So I have to go now very quickly to the end. Our strategy for 22-23 until June, because now I am providing an annual report at the end of December, and every year we will provide a midterm review to all contributing countries and partners. Development of partnership with contributing country, to add officially the fifth C to become C5 ISR Academy for Peace Operation. Permanent, maybe add one, but we will see. Increasing the number of training modules and course related, this is what I have explained just before, by priority. P1 Uniteware, P2 GIS, because when you know how to share the information, you have to geolocalize this information. Priority 3 is cyber. Why? Because you have to know. It's really, cyber is really a defense, is really focused on the personal cyber hygiene at first. We have to explain to each entity, each trainee, what is his own vulnerability. And by the way, what vulnerability is providing to the mission. So we explain to them, we have very, very nice exercises, and they are discovering their own footprint on media. Priority 4, it's info management. And 5 is PKI. ISR technology and tools. We are really focused on how to develop sensors, capacity, and how to use them. ICT, spectrum management, and MCC, MPP. The last step is increase the level of collaboration and coordination between peacekeeping training center. It's what I really expect. I hope to be able to train your own trainers, and then to have my trainers train in your centers, in order to provide a common operational picture to the strategic level with a clear, really a clear training master plan, who don't exist today. We have a model, we have a proof of concept, we have a vision, and we have a concept. We must work shorter image about option center on the left, what is the VIT on the right. Our capacity, we have 2 MCCs, fully operational. All equipment are used by UN, and all of our equipment at UNCAP is operational. It can be deployed tomorrow. And the classroom. Okay, and the last one is here. Our contributing country, Canada, Denmark, France, Germany, India, Japan, NATO, Uganda, and USA. Thank you for not too much.
12 minutes.
Sorry.
Okay, now we have very less. If Commandant allows, we can take some of the time from the break, because it's a very interesting session, and you know, all are highly expert in a new this arena. That's why allotted time they have almost taken double. So we'll go for a very quick question answer session. Kindly ask what you call, these are some guidelines that are given by General Foster, but based on that, if you, because there's something to share later on. So very quick question, only the name and that, no introduction, nothing, please. Anyone? Yeah, I give the microphone. Very quick question. Yeah, it's working.
I have seen that number of technologies you mentioned, like cyber warfare and other technologies where the UN...
Specific course or training that you will be looking at some of the nations to say, yeah, we will take that on and do that training for you. I'm interested in talking to him because we might be able to tie into our expertise. Like I have some intelligence officers working in our unit, and we're info ops, CIMIC, all sorts of different things. But I'm just saying I might be able to offer something. But he said that PKI Academy is not going to stand up for a while, but are they looking for some of us to be able to provide training in the interim? So I just want to touch base and just see if there's a delta there.
Okay, thank you very much, and we can get another one. Yeah, please.
Note that UnitedWare trial in Cyprus is really only replicating what would be below a sector level in Mali and far less complex. Is there a training package designed to enable the sector commander to be able to run intelligence-driven operations? I see a lot of assets. I don't see the collection of those assets to create a common operating picture, and that is what will inevitably drive intelligence-driven operations. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone?
Mr. Fair?
Yeah, please. Hey, Neil. Hey, Neil.
Thank you very much.
Getting the counter ID training. Are you there, Mr.?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, if you, can you get the answer like the counter ID, that training?
All right. So if I'm not mistaken, there was a question on counter ID technology and then a question on peacekeeping intelligence training. The question on counter ID technology, I can't really answer because I'm not really in charge of technology, but what I can say is we are looking into developing guidance and training on technical intelligence, which is basically trying to figure out what armed group has which weapons and using which IEDs and everything, so that we can prevent or mitigate future events. So that's not technology, that's more guidance, that's more training, but I'm not talking about technology here because that's not my business. Now, the question that the gentleman asked about, the Peacekeeping Intelligence Academy, how can member state help? It's a great question. We hope that the academy is going to be breaking ground by beginning of 2023. But in the meantime, sorry, you're right, we already have trainings ongoing, and we are developing training. And some of the training that are already ongoing, especially the one open source, peacekeeping intelligence, is, for example, conducted by a member state, which I'm not going to name here. But a member state is already helping us conducting this training on open source. And another member state is helping us developing the course on units, on human systems.
That's what we are expecting to have to consider when we go to the instruments, how we get them, for example, to battalion level and provide those TCCs, DCCs, certain access to which we will have to do in some shape or form. There was another question, but I think actually it's something to do with Cyprus versus Mali. The use of Cyprus as this pilot is to allow us to roll out, to shake ourselves out. The added complexity of Mali is going to be scales different, which is why we need to test ourselves out in a small pilot first. So I think it referred to some kind of training opportunities, which I think is perhaps best answered elsewhere.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kevin Kennedy, you can, I think regarding the sector level at Mali, there is a Washington, he has covered, but if you can highlight on this one or any other thing.
Right, thanks. Yeah, it's not on that, but on this, if I understood the question correctly about where in the chain of command UnitedWare should sit, I think it's really important to avoid looking at UnitedWare as a force asset. UnitedWare is a mission aspect. in the mission-specific context, including how United Aware is developed, and a variety.
Not about counter ID. We didn't mention it much because this is overarching peacekeeping intelligence. So peacekeeping intelligence can inform all sorts of threats. And you've got to get your act together in terms of your systems for establishing where the threats are and who they are, whether it's counter ID, whether it's ambush, whatever it is. So, no, it wasn't relevant to mention counter ID today. That is a subject in its own right. And I think just one other, because I know we're running out of time, that I would just say the message to everyone, Unite Aware and its successes is coming your way in training centres. A lot of information there, but you really do need to start to get your minds around it because it will go all the way down into battalion level and I dare say down even further in due course. So it's very important that you start to really get to understand what it is and how you can start training your people on it.
Thank you, sir. John Mitchell, just 1 minute, because already we're taking the time. Yeah.
It's about Unite Aware. Unite Aware, we are in charge of training of user, and the first delivery of training is for UNFICIP for the 12th of December. We are training very close coordination with all the Unite Aware team. And just one word about EID and Unite Aware. We are training also our remote pilots to work in close coordination and cooperation with our trainees who are using Unite Aware capacities under the C4ISR concept. And one of the scenarios is, what are you doing if you discover by flying over maybe a street or something? Anyway.
I can tell you, I have recently joined ITS in February. The things they are doing at the UN headquarters level, the mission headquarters level, the technological things, and understanding the training centers or the member states are not actually fully aware of the things, and there are a lot of gaps. It requires a lot of training. And there is a training already, it is forecasted, and like to have a Peacekeeping Intelligence Academy or like that one. I think the next year will be very busy for the Peacekeeping Training Center to catch up the technological advancement and the intelligence requirement of the UN peacekeeping operation. I think it was a very busy session and we have learned a lot. So thank you very much, all the expert panel, and we can have a round of applause for them. Thank you, sir. I think we have taken 10 minutes from we can adjust that one because next session will be also conducted by me.
Thank you, distinguished audience. So that brings us to the end of this session. Thank you for your participation. The next session will be at 11, so we can have a short coffee break and come back here by 11. Thank you all.
Camera, just wait. Just you have to act for a few minutes.
Sir, can you switch on your video so that we can check? Thank you, sir. No problem, sir. For you, it's okay. Yes, sir. Now, very soon our session will start. Now you can mute again. Thank you very much, sir. মাইক্রোফোন নিয়ে যারা আসো সেই 5 জন আমার এখানে আসো।
Distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good morning. Welcome back after the coffee. So now we have this session 7, and which is on performance and accountability, which is very important for giving peacekeeping a fresh impetus and boosting. We must pay close attention to and place a strong focus on the performance of each military, police and civilian peacekeepers' contribution to peace operations. We have 4 distinguished speakers today to discuss this important topic of the day. The session will be moderated again by Colonel Retired Mustafiz, the military chair of IAPTC. And he has been already introduced in the morning, so I am not going to introduce him again. And may I now request Colonel Mustafiz to begin the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Salehin. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have the sessions 7, which is performance and accountability. As we know that since the action for peacekeeping, like A4P and A4P plus, there has been a momentum to increase the performance and accountability of peacekeepers. In particular, there has been much emphasis on the individual performance of peacekeepers, particularly through the need to develop an integrated performance policy framework based on a clear standard for all actors. As the process develops, its training implications need to be apprised. And the session's purpose is to orient you with the troops contributing countries and police contributing an evaluation system for the TCC. Then Mr. Atta from Police Division of DPO, he will be joining us from the New York through VTC, and he'll cover the UN Police Performance Evaluation System. And then we have the final speaker, Mr. Benjamin. He is from the Conduct and Discipline Service, and he's going to cover that one. And at the end, we'll have a question answer session as usual. Now, about our first speaker, Mr. Major General Joy Shankar Menon. He is the director of the OPSP, and he is going to talk from the New York through VTC. And let me introduce him. Major General Retired Joy Menon Shankar is presently serving as the director of the Office of the Peacekeeping Strategic Partnership since June 2018. He is a retired Indian Army general, having served in the Indian Army for 42 years. The general has extensive command experience and knowledge on peacekeeping affairs at the national and international level. He has commanded an infantry battalion and an infantry brigade and a division. He has rich UN experience, having served as a UN observer in Mozambique back in 1993-94. Then he was the deputy chief of ISS in UNIFIL and was the head of the mission or the force commander in UNDOF from 2016 to 17. Sir, I hope that you are connected. Can you hear me, sir? Thank you, General Menon, to be very candid in expressing your observation, because that is much required, because that is not in a diplomatic term. You have very candidly expressed your observation, and I think the training community or the member states, they'll pick up these points, and in future they are going to utilize. We have our next speaker, is Commander Vladimir Jedvich, Chief of MPT OMA. And he is going to talk about the military perspective. And before that, I'd like to give a short introduction. Commander Jedvich joined the French Navy in 1995. Major appointments were held at the Military Cooperation Directorate, French Foreign Ministry of Affairs, French Armed Forces Headquarters, French Armed Forces, Pacific Headquarters, NATO, High Readiness Force, and Maritime Command.
Distinguished Chair and members of the IAPTC, representatives, colleagues, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to briefly touch upon the issues of military performance evaluation in a UN context. Military performance or accountability of peacekeepers, as expressed in the action for Peacekeeping Plus, aims at looking at how units accomplish their tasks during deployment. It helps identify shortfalls as well as best practices and help recognize those units that will perform outstandingly well. Indeed, the Santos Cruz report that was released in December 2017 and in 2018, the A4P framework and subsequent declaration of shared commitments all indicated a clear political will to renew a commitment to peacekeeping operations and enhance mandate implementation, chiefly by identifying what was good and what was perfectible in the way peacekeepers operated. UN Security Council Resolution 2436 reaffirmed all stakeholders' responsibilities, starting with TCCs, while the operational readiness preparation for troop contributing countries in peacekeeping missions guidelines of December 2018 sealed the deal missions, ensure that all deployed peacekeepers mechanism such as CPAS, for example, look more at where the mission is going and its impact regarding mandate implementation. So in the coming slides, I will just show you what we do on a daily basis with the missions and with the TCCs, and also a couple of projects that we have in development. There we go. So first of all, I would like to start with this evaluation cycle. Everybody has a cycle. We talked about PKI, MPKI earlier with the intelligence cycle. So evaluation also has its cycle, and it's very closely related, of course, with the deployment cycle of units and the way TCCs prepare, deploy, and redeploy units. Usually we want to start when at the military, at the Office of Military Affairs, we usually start at the in-mission evaluation part, which is in that cycle to the lower right part, because this is where it all starts. We need feedback from the force commanders on where shortfalls are identified or best practices are identified. That will serve the whole process and feed into lessons learned, best practice. We all know that TCCs are sovereign in self-certifying units for deployment. So we've identified a number of fields where we could work that could be worked on, especially with the policy side, establishing, renewing, revising current documents, trying to provide training so that we could have evaluators that would be trained and support us in the self-certification phase within TCCs, but also serve as potential UN knowledgeable evaluators within UN missions, and a number of other elements that you can see on the slide. Now, all of this turned into a couple of projects that we currently have. In-mission unit evaluation, of course. This is, as I mentioned, the cornerstone of our work. And what we did is try to develop a whole framework and a data tool in this digitalization process to ease the work of the field headquarters and provide some standard operating procedures so that the evaluators could better evaluate. Validations is another project that we developed in 2018. Obviously, it was difficult to implement in the first part with the pandemic that we all faced. It basically consists of going to the TCC at the end of the self-certification process and basically check whether units are fit for purpose and working with the UN peacekeeping mindset, which is something very difficult to assess, but still, and they comply with the UN standard, the new ones that have been developed. One thing I want to mention, you will see that in the next slides. We focused essentially as a priority, because we had a whole list of units to be evaluated, but we focused on infantry battalions, infantry units, to start the work. As you may know, infantry units are the vast majority of military peacekeepers in the field. That's about it for military skill validations. Then we have another project that considers mostly the headquarters. So it's not TCC units anymore, but a summary of TCC provisions, and we did. Last but not least, a UN military performance evaluator training. This is an important one that we've developed with a couple of partners and colleagues within DPO, especially the Integrated Training Service. This is still under development. We piloted a first course in Entebbe back in March with you, sir, which went rather well and proved quite positive from the feedback that we got from the TCCs that were invited and also the partners that were present at the course. Of course, all of these. Sorry. Yeah, go back one slide. I don't know why it went that way. Oh, that side. Okay. Just one back. Anyway, all these projects that I've just mentioned fully rely, just so you know, within MPET, just mentioned, except for most of the personnel, we're fully reliant on member state financial incentives, what we call extra budgetary funding, and we include as a slice on the top left corner. I also put a couple of pictures regarding the data tool that we've developed. It is a sort of a comprehensive military but comprehensive data tool that is made to support the field and evaluators in computing, in collecting all the data, because as I mentioned, it goes really into into a lot of granularity, and so we wanted to make it as simple as possible for the evaluators in the field to work on this. Once the data is collected, it comes back to us. It is signed off by the force commanders, and with their comments as well, which really serve us, identifying trends. Obviously, the tool is 1 year old, so to determine trends is yet to be something that we need to work on, but definitely see where shortfalls can be found, or best practices, as I mentioned earlier. Tasks, standards, and indicators. As I mentioned, infantry battalion, infantry units, QRFs as well, are fully completed and reported on the new tool that we have. We're still under piloting or under development for many other units, specialized units, enabling units, but we're getting these done. Some are. And then on the resource hub, of course, for those who don't know how to find it, I put a link so you can use it once you get the slides. It is quite this resource hub is quite a big website. But we tried to make it easy to find the documents that are related to performance evaluations, especially for TCCs, because at some point we really need the TCCs to embed these military standards in their in the way they train in order to have the best possible prepared units when they deploy. That's another one. It's I'm sure you're all familiar with the PCRS, the readiness system that DPO has, and the link. We've added a link in this on their website to reach the standards documentation as easy as possible. This is the military performance evaluation system. I'll be very brief on this one, but it's just to show you the process that we have at UNHQ with regards to performance. Of course, military performance is one little, maybe not that little, but an aspect of integrated performance within the UNHQ and within this whole remedial measures. They can be taken in mission while the unit is deployed through performance improvement plans. This has been developed as well in the data tool that we have to ease the life of evaluators and unit commanders as well, because they have some work to do as well on this side once an evaluation is completed. Remedial measures, they also come after the unit has returned, and if critical shortfalls have been identified, there's a number of tools that can be used to remedy these shortfalls. I mentioned one, military skill validations. There are several other ones. Herbert is here. The light coordination mechanism can be used to identify strategic partners on a bilateral basis. Training, of course, with the integrated training service can be used, and a number of other tools that we have. It can be as simple as just political engagement with the permanent mission back in New York. Lastly, expectations from the TCC, just to make sure I answer the question in the panel. Basically, what is asked from the TCCs is to ensure compliance with the operational requirements and UN military standards ahead of deployment. What we want to do is really make sure that TCCs include these UN military standards in their maybe not doctrine, but in the way they train their units be deployed in a peacekeeping environment. That blue element of the military, which is not always an easy task. And the last point also is to support development of pools of evaluators through UN-provided training. I mentioned this. This is the project that we have in development at the moment. We're talking mainly about TCCs, and that would be my last point. We're talking about mainly TCCs here, but of course, peacekeeping training centers, and this is why this conference is really important to us today. Peacekeeping training centers really play a key part because they are considered a critical conduit to disseminate military standards and the UN military standards in a peacekeeping fashion. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Now we have the third speaker, Mr. Atta from Police Division, and he is going to talk from New York on the performance of police and their evaluation system. Mr. Atta is currently serving as the Chief of Police Selection and Recruitment Section at the Police Division in UN headquarters. He previously served as a Chief of Mission Management and Support Section within the UN Police Division and working. Yeah, we can hear you. You can continue. Yeah, we can hear you. Mr. Atta, can you hear me? But you are distorted. You are distorted. You can do one thing. We can continue with the next speaker. By this time, your connection and everything, if you are in a set position, then we can start. He will be covering the conduct and discipline part. So he is serving as the program manager in the conduct and discipline service in the Department of Management Strategy, Policy and Compliance. His portfolio focuses on the policy support for misconduct, risk management, both at headquarters and the field level, including sexual exploitation and abuse. He also works in cases of misconduct involving UN personnel, issues of training and assessment of uniform personnel in the area of UN standard of conduct, as well as strengthening facilitation in the claims of paternity and child support made against the UN peacekeepers within the member state concerned. So he joined the United Nations in 2014 after serving as a criminal professor at the New York University. So let's welcome Mr. Benjamin, please.
I'm currently in transit from Ayonda to Bangui with my team to conduct an inspection and assessment to increase the performance of police environment.
Mr. Atta, look, Mr. Atta, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now hear you now. Yeah. If you are stable, then we can, or we continue with the next speaker. Then we'll again fall back to you.
Can I continue now?
Okay, you continue. No problem. You continue.
Simple, agile, mobile, to ensure very democratic living is created wherever we are deployed. And our role is to focus on reform and the restructuring of host nation units.
And there is, I think, the final test of the VTC because he is at this moment in Central African Republic. He has moved from New York. He's on the move now.
Okay. I was referring to the test and responsibilities the human policing.
Thank you, Mr. Atta.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you. Hopefully my connectivity will be a little better here in the room with you. Just to recap, I'm in the Conduct and Discipline Service in headquarters in New York, and we're in the Department of Management, Strategy, Policy, and Compliance. And my Undersecretary General, Catherine Pollard, has oversight of the Global Secretariat's Conduct and Discipline. So that's for all categories of personnel serving within the Secretariat, staff, military and police, and of course, peace operations. Our main stakeholder is the Department of Peace Operations, and so we are USG LaCroix's primary support for the area of conduct and discipline. We support Mr. LaCroix and DPO in all the areas that relate to conduct and discipline, including performance. And as my colleague said, it's actually in the Memorandum of Understanding between the TCCs in the UN and also for foreign police units. We are United Nations peacekeeping personnel. That's the name of it. We as peacekeeping personnel represent the United Nations and are present in the country to help it recover from the trauma of conflict. As a result, we must consciously be prepared to accept special constraints in our public and private lives in order to do the work and pursue the ideals of the United Nations organization. As we know, the vast majority of peacekeepers uphold the United Nations standards of conduct. They're prepared to accept those special constraints while serving with the United Nations. And they understand that certain behaviors that might be permitted or acceptable while they're in other deployments may not be acceptable while serving with the United Nations. For example, our rules in the United Nations say that acts of misconduct cannot stay within a contingent. So if it's misconduct, it can't be handled internally. It has to be reported to the United Nations, and there's a process that's triggered. That's not true in many other contexts or many other deployment situations. Further to that, developing a sexual relationship with a local person may be permitted in some contexts. But in ours, given the vulnerability of the populations we serve, and in some cases, extreme vulnerability of the populations we serve, there is an inherent imbalance, both for sexual exploitation and abuse, of course, but also for all sorts of misconduct. And the three-pronged strategy is prevention, which involves training, public outreach with communities so they understand what our rules are, and then also vetting and selection of personnel. The second part is enforcement. That's the investigations, the disciplinary process, criminal accountability, military justice accountability, those processes. And then finally, for victims of sexual exploitation and abuse, there's the trust fund for victim assistance that's provided for in the missions, and the UN's work to facilitate claims of paternity and child support for peacekeeper babies. Sometimes when we think of risk management, there's a tendency to focus on prevention, right? But all of these things together are viewed as part of our overall risk management. Managing compliance with the UN standards of conduct is a core management, leadership, and command accountability. And like so many things, it starts with training. Commanders should look at the management of conduct and discipline among their units as part of a broader misconduct risk management approach. While there is obviously a special focus on sexual exploitation and abuse, risk management is much broader. Other parts of our work requires that there's an understanding of that specific context, of that specific location, of that specific mission. Commanders are responsible to engage and coordinate with the field mission, the conduct and discipline team, and the force to align their risk management activities. In particular, there's in each mission a misconduct risk management plan, and commanders and contingents are expected to feed into that, both in terms of identifying risks and then also implementing whatever corrective measures are required. And the conduct and discipline teams in the missions are a resource to do that because they're responsible for the overall coordination of that. Integration, and coordination are at the heart of this when we talk about integrated risk management. It means that all components, military, police, civilians, heads of offices, are working together to identify and treat risks of misconduct. It's the whole of the mission approach mentioned by General Menon in his slide, in his speech. This challenge of integration is, we've heard it constantly throughout this, throughout this conference, that there's challenges of integrations between civilian components to military components and the police as well. That information can be, and hear back from the mission about how to manage those risks. And, there's a certain sense of creativity required for that purpose. It's more than just concertina wire. It may be other preventative measures that a commander can take or being asked to take from a mission. Can I have the next slide? Oh, there we go. There we go. There's tools for risk management that exist in the mission. Essentially, they look kind of like log frames that use that process that I started before, that I showed you before, the circular process. But there's also tools such as risk assessments that are conducted by conduct and discipline teams. They can be conducted by the force, and commanders may be responsible to implement the recommendations in partnership with the mission. And the reality is, and I think General Menon alluded to this, is that sometimes, the things that the UN's supposed to be doing, like drilling water points in TOBs, are not done in a timely manner. So personnel are at water points, public water points, and are having to, do that with the local population, which could potentially pose a risk, right? So, it's never all one thing. It's never just on the TCC. It's never just on the commander. We're one UN, and I think that the organization is certainly in some missions are providing leadership with figures and data about where incidents occur, the context in which they occur, and then the overall numbers. I'm going to try again. There we go. And in support of this, and of particular interest to you, maybe, is the reinforcement training package on conduct and discipline. It's a training tool that's supplementary to the core pre-deployment training, and it's delivered to commanders at all levels to support their leadership and identify risks of SCA and other misconduct. It has modules specifically related to identifying and addressing challenges of maintaining good conduct and discipline in the specific UN peacekeeping environment, measures to support commanders, measures that they can take to limit and prevent misconduct among their personnel, assess what kind of misconduct might be at most risk for their particular units, to develop their own misconduct plans. And if I can ask you, when in doing your training, when covering this material, if it can be explained that if you're in command, one of the most important parts of it, in terms of this area, is that each commander has to have a plan. And we still, despite all the training and despite all the knowledge sharing around that, we still have incidents of misconduct that are tried to be handled within a contingent or within an FPU. And that potentially is misconduct in and of itself of the commander, because it's a failure to report. And in the UN's view, it's a failure of command and control. And then it's also the last part is that commanders are prepared through this training to work with the UN on investigations as necessary. So with that, I'll close. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Now just we'll take a very quick question answer session. Please, you can raise your hand. Yeah. Okay, please. Then you're the next man.
Mr. Benjamin, please. Colonel Roland from Brazil. About the sex exploitation, we are very concerned in Brazil to not have any mention in our troops when we send to UN missions. I'm accompanying UN missions since in 2005, and I saw that in 2013, the United Nations stopped paying for 2 rotation guidance for the next COE working group that will be together in January 2023 to decide if the internet will be provided or not by the UN.
Thank you. Yeah, I think then we'll go to you.
Thank you. My name is Benga Oni from USIP. So my question is for General Mano. So when you were talking about the military dominance in terms of, so one of the examples you gave as a challenge was that sometimes they do joint patrol with both the police, the civilians, and all of that, and you see it as a challenge in terms of the military having dominance there. But I also wanted to speak in terms of a civilian perspective. I remember when General Foster was talking, he talked about that we should not be saying it as military versus police versus civilian, but we see it as a big UN contingent. So now, if you see it in this other direction, is it not a challenge that we're also separating the mission? Yes, we want dominance, but how do we also cover the issue of community really saying that the UN is one big body and you continue to do those patrol together? Then the second question you talked about, when you're talking about POC, Protection of Civilian and Chapter 7. Yes, most times when I go for training too, I say that there's a lot of confusion around Chapter 7, application of it. Is it to be preemptive or is it to reactionary? But you talked about that sometimes there's a need to be preemptive by the troop. But my question is that how do you begin to address the issue of abuses that might happen? Because you say sometimes they wait for the other people to fire before they fire, but is there a need to have a clear definition of
officials mostly traveling for inspections? Is there no way you could be sparing a little time to come to our training centers, mostly before deployment, and probably have a talk with the forces before they deploy? This would help the commanders and the entire force to understand the dangers of the misconduct as well as the proper performance. Yes, we train, but a word from someone who is coming from the headquarters would add more value. Thank you.
Okay, now we can go for the, first of all, I think, General Menon, then we'll go to the Benjamin. Okay, General Menon, if you can answer that challenges of E, and also highlight, I think, the first one from the Brazil regarding the rotation by the UN.
As far as, when I was talking of domination and patrols, etc., don't get me wrong. So, when you're out, especially in the Chapter 7 missions, there is a dire need for integration, both planning as well as operations. And the emphasis of, say, integrated planning, and when I say integrated operations, is, like going out for community engagements, etc. It must be integrated as far as possible, that is with the three pillars that must be involved. There is also an equal importance for military-led only patrols to also go out. In some of the missions they do it. In one of the missions which I said, where we really found that there was that the military somehow in their minds they had it that anything that they had to do outside had to be done in an integrated fashion. So I will leave that over there. When you go out and patrol, there are different types of patrols. There is a patrol where you go for area domination. There is a patrol where you go, there is a stronger force to sort of, show to the armed groups that we are here and don't come into this area to trouble or prey on the population. There are patrols where you go to, go and community engage, and those would most probably be integrated patrols. So the commanders in their mind, they have to think out these issues and see how best they can do in their areas of responsibility to really control the areas, to domination of areas, as well as to carry out community engagement, which would non-probability should and must be integrated with the other elements. As far as the protection of civilian issue is concerned, the Chapter 7 is very clear. Of protection of civilians, the policy, the POC policy that is, the protection of civilian policy that is there, which is the latest policy. It gives very clear instructions that that we are here. If you want to come into this area, you come in without your arms. You come in if you want to come in because your families, etc., would also be in that area. But you will not trouble the civilians. I gave you a very fine example where one of the PCCs, when we went, I asked the civilians, I said, do you feel protected? And they said that with this PCC over here, very general, we can sleep with our shoes off. Please don't send them out from here. So it's not that PCC was, sort of going overboard and sort of, committing human rights abuses, etc. But it was just that the posture, very, very posture that they had, where they gave a very clear signal to the armed groups. The armed groups had moved out from that area because this PCC was there. So, that's the type of, I would call it a sort of a moral stagnancy that we have to gain over the armed groups or the perpetrators who come in to harm the civilians. Because the sacred duty is to look after the civil population. When the commander said, we asked not one commander, number of commanders we asked them. They said, sir, we will intervene when the first shot is fired. But we said, the first shot can kill a civilian. So, are you being reactive or are you being preemptive? So that's the issue that I was trying. That's the issue that it must give you a posture where you gain the confidence of the civilian and you put it to really sort of speak to them. And it should not be just before they, then in that case, just before they sort of coming in to deploy. I think it would be done, a little while earlier, about 3 months or 4 months earlier, so that the commanders, when they listen to the experts, they could set their minds and sort of prepare themselves before they. One of the issues which I definitely said was that a military officer or even a police officer, you must study. So you must prepare yourself. You must be aware of where you're coming in. You must be able to, understand the dynamics and the whole environment before you come in. Because when you do that and you come in aware, you can actually do much more and give much more towards mandate implementation. And of course, like I said, you can achieve your higher commander's aim. That's what all officers should be thinking of. How best or what more can I do to achieve my higher commanders or the next higher commander's aim. So I'll stop here and I can see Akash. And over to you, Akash.
Thank you. Now, I think from the Benjamin, if you highlight on your 30, then we'll go to Mr. Arthur.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'll address the gentleman from Rwanda first on visits to the training centers. We do actually do virtual, support for the peacekeeping training centers, and we'd be happy or have a video conference with your family. Is a risk. That's how we talk about it in terms of risk. That the lack of those things create a risk of misconduct, and the answer is we hear you on those issues. I don't have an answer on the COE working group and the rotations, but we do identify that as a risk, and we hope to put solutions in place within missions through mission support in order to meet that and manage that risk. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Atta, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, very quickly if you just, yeah, please.
I will be very quick, and again, apology, the internet is failing me to expand on my presentation, but there was a very pertinent question from Commissioner David from Rwanda, if I'm not mistaken. A very important, critical one, and I wouldn't pass without answering it. From our perspective, we continue to work with the member state, as I mentioned. Currently, we are providing an annual basis briefing to our police commissioners related to performance. Second, we conduct a workshop also for the deputy police commissioners, chief of operations as well. Third, and I know the previous speakers will also suggest some proposals from the police division.
Giving a round of applause to the expert panels. Thank you very much. Now, Commandant, if you allow, we can go for maybe 20 minutes we can manage, because today we don't have the evening. We can come back for 1 hour break from the lunch. Yeah. So for the lunch, no, yeah, I with that. So we come, next session will start at 13:50. I repeat, 13:50, but not this venue. You take your everything. Where we had another building, like we had the Ideas Bazaar, you will be going there. So in the next session, there is another auditorium where Colonel Helen will conduct the session 8. Then subsequently, there will be another 2 sessions in that building. So we'll be leaving this one for today. Thank you very much. Is that done?
Thank you, dear audience, for hearing. So we'll leave this building and we'll gather here at 13:50 at the auditorium. The plenary led by Colonel Kim will be continue in the auditorium, and the plenary led by Ambassador Abdul Latif will be in the top floor of the same building. Thank you, and I want to thank the moderator and the speakers, both present here in person and connected through BTC. Thank you all.